Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Like tonight's film, 1970's Carnival of Blood, directed by Leonard Kurtman. This is on a double bill that I got from oldies.com. They actually distributed Alpha Home Entertainment with The Undertaker and His Pals right here, but we are looking just at Carnival of Blood, right there. Carnival of Blood, and it says axe-wielding horror. Here it is, folks. This is Carnival of Blood from 1970. Now, Leonard Kurtman, who directed this film, who was also one of the camera operators I saw on the closing credit sequence, he was also known, it says in the back here, for doing some hardcore porn as well. And we also have some recognizable actors in here as well, like, for example, somebody from Rocky, Burt Young, aka John Harris, in this film. So let's look at Carnival of Blood from 1970, directed by Leonard Kurtman. And this is on a budget release here from oldies.com. Let me get that there for you, right at the bottom. And we have some, this is the back here. Let's get away from the glare as much as possible. Okay. So let's look at this film here, Carnival of Blood from 1970. Carnival of Blood is such an awesome snapshot of Coney Island, of the amusement park at Coney Island, and of really seemingly guerrilla filmmaking at Coney Island. And just a snapshot of the summer, a snapshot of the rides, of the carnivals, of nostalgia, of the memories, all of it, all of the above. And it's a film of characters. It's a film of human relationships. A humongous theme in this film is human relationships. Broken relationships, mending relationships, future relationships, and in particular, romantic relationships, and the disintegration of them, and the reality of them, and the pain and the suffering, and scars, and emotional scars, and physical scars, and really childhood and adulthood, and so there's this element in this film where we have a group of characters at Coney Island amusement park, and you're following them, and you're with them as they're there, and their interactions with one particular game at the park. And one of the men that works at the game, actually two men that work at the game, very interesting men, and their friendship with each other and with their customers, and their interactions with each other and with their customers, and the other rides at the park, the Skyline ride that takes you way above the park, and also a spook house, a dark ride, a horror dark ride. And then we also have I think it's called the Wheel of Wonder, kind of a slight version of a Ferris wheel, but much more intense in the way that it's done. So let's look at Carnival of Blood right here from 1970. When we look at the music for this film and the sound design for this film, as soon as you push play in this film, you're immediately brought into what sounds like a spook house of horrors, a dark ride, a horror ride, with laughter and organ grinding music, and it truly sounds horrific. And then we're taken into, obviously, the sounds of the amusement park. And when the rides and the people and the fun and the talking and all of the cacophony of different people talking, and the big portion of the sound design is also a focus on certain individuals talking and the relationships of those individuals talking. We also have some kind of acoustic 70s folk music in this film as well, predominantly at an apartment complex and between kind of the lead couple of the film. And then near kind of the climax of the film, we kind of have some 70s, early 70s, late 60s rock and roll music playing in the film. And the interesting thing is we also have, with all of this diversity of sound, we also have kind of a main horrific cue in the movie that reminds me a bit of the original Black Christmas. It reminds me a bit of the sound of the original Black Christmas. And it has a very dark, menacing vibe about it. And there are also some other sounds at times near the end of the film linked to that sound, really only at the end of the film, where you kind of have some oppressive cues, horrific cues that are mixing with that main horrific cue, that are oppressive and without melody, and dark, menacing, chilling, creepy. When we look at the style and the cinematography of this film and the overall themes and vibes of the movie, we have a film that predominantly takes place at an amusement park, and with some small sections at an apartment complex. As soon as this film starts, you know that you are in for some very interesting character development. A film of this low budget, unknown nature should not have acting this good, should not have characterization this good, should not have dialogue this good, should not have human relational interaction this good. It's actually dumbfounding to me how great the dialogue and the characters and their particular arguments and situations and just relational troubles, how fascinating they are. I mean, this is a film essentially of just such great realistic dialogue, and you really get wrapped up in a variety of these characters, from just a married couple that is really just, with their children, one night away from their children, and just the poison in the relationship, and the husband and the wife, and then a woman who's by herself, who kind of is wheeling and dealing the world. The world's always against her. She's trying to get what she wants, to a newly engaged couple, to a drunken sailor and one of his many mistresses. And the interesting thing is that how all of these different people really, there's a connection with all of these different people, and there's a twofold connection with all of these people. It is a fortune teller and a particular game at the park, and as I mentioned earlier, the two hosts that run this game. And the fortune teller is just so great, and you get wrapped up in her prices and then the tears of what she does and how she does it, and you get wrapped up in this whole world of it, and you get wrapped up in the host of the two men that work at the game, at the one game with the balloons, and the stuffed animals, because stuffed animals play a pivotal role in this film as well. There's a very unique, horrific storyline playing out in this film, and that unique, horrific storyline is incorporating some mystery and some things that you're not aware of, that you're trying to figure out as the movie goes on. And you're trying to figure out who the murderer is, or you're trying to figure out why or how. And as the movie unfolds, things get even more weird. We have some kind of, as I mentioned, some troubling relational interaction that you could see on maybe some, some drama about marriage on television, on a weeknight on regular TV. But then you have some very troubling, disturbing interaction in this film that starts to unravel. And then you start to realize the motives for some things. And you realize the mystery develops and the mystery opens up, and you start to get answers. And the way that Leonard Kirtman, the director, exposes these answers near the climax of the film is so unique. I don't think I've ever really seen anything done like it before, where I don't want to give anything away, but it really deals, the uniqueness of it, it deals in the age of the player, the age of the actor. And that's all I want to say. And red lighting. Very interestingly enough, with all of this amazing dialogue and interaction and acting and characters, we also have some gore sequences in here that are quite visceral, that are quite disturbing. Of course, we have this, they're very low budget, but they're well done. And, there's one shot in particular of this older woman with these really funky glasses, and it's really disturbing. There's some sections that are going to be exposed later on involving stuffed animals and gore and evisceration and eyeballs and all of this. I mean, very very shocking. A couple of these sequences, the violent gore sequences, are pretty gory, pretty shocking, and so really, really interesting. In terms of the sexuality of the film, this is a film that doesn't have any nudity or anything. We have like some kind of simulated sex scenes, but it's a film where the sexuality really is in the relationships. It's in the lack of relationships and the crumbling relationships. That's really where it holds. It's all implied. It's all in. It's more relational. It's more the breakdown. It's more communication than sexuality. And in many regards, it seems that the communication leads to the lack of sexuality in many of these couples. Very interesting backstories on a lot of the characters. It's almost like you're getting snapshots. It's almost like you're getting thrown in documentary style with the characters, with the players in the film, and it makes for a very, very unique experience. This is 1970s Carnival of Blood. There it is, folks. What a unique film, horror film, from 1970 from Leonard Kirtman. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more, like 1970's Carnival of Blood. Thank you so much, and have a great night.